All right, folks, coming up is part one of my interview with Rabbi Yosef Mizrachi of DivineInformation.com. World-renowned rabbi, we thank you for joining us. This show is the Messiah Hour, broadcasted on messiahhour.blogspot.co.il. Once again, that's messiahhour.blogspot.co.il. Also simulcasted on Israel National Radio under the show Is It Prophecy? Our goal is to have the show once a day for 3 hours, 5 days a week. We are looking for sponsors, so please contact us at messiahhour@gmail.com. Enjoy the interview. All right, welcome to Is It Prophecy here on IsraelNationalRadio.com. Also, it is great to have everyone aboard from the United States, all over the world. And my next guest, this is really an honor. Personally, a big fan. He has videos all over YouTube. He's given thousands and thousands of lectures. And you can find him at DivineInformation.com and check out all his work. This is just tremendous to have him on. Please give a warm welcome to Rabbi Yosef Mizrachi. Rabbi, welcome to the program.
My pleasure.
Let's get started. I want to first start with this fascinating video that's on your Facebook page, and people can find it. I'm going to post on my Facebook page as well, but basically it's a video that talks about these strange noises that are throughout the world. It's reported on news, and during a baseball game they heard this weird noise, and you were of the opinion that it is a beginning process of a shofar sound of Mashiach, the beginning of Mashiach, etc. Could you elaborate a little more for us what you mean by all that?
You know, we as Jews, we read the words of the prophets from more than 2,000 years ago, and they all prepared us for days of Mashiach, when the Mashiach would come, what's going to take place in the world. And we all know that before the Mashiach would arrive, there will be a big sound of shofar, which would be like a special loud siren, which will be all over the world. It's the shofar of Eliyahu Navi. This is the words of the prophet, Bayom Hahu yitaka b'shofar gadol. At that day, there will be a blown of a huge sound of shofar, and that will be Eliyahu Navi. Elijah would come and prepare the Jews at that time for the arrival of the Mashiach. There's different kinds of arguments trying to put the words of all the prophets on the table and match between them how exactly it's going to be. But the acceptable opinion, the most common and acceptable opinion out of all different opinions, is that it will be first a major war in the world, as the word of Zachary 14, the prophet Zechariah. Everyone can read it there. A very, very scary prophecy that 2/3 of the people in the world will be wiped out, which means all the wicked people who did not listen to God, Jews and non-Jews, will be cleaned from the world, and the other third, which we are talking about 2.5 billion people that would survive, they will be the good people among the Jews, among the Gentiles, but they also will have a grace period that they will be tested, and for those kind of people, Elijah would come and prepare them for the actual arrival of the Mashiach. How exactly the order going to be, what's going to come first, we don't know 100%. It either be the first is going to be a big war, and then towards the end of the war, just like the prophet Zachary say, Hashem would interfere and will take revenge against all the anti-Semites, all the people who tortured the Jews, all the people who always wrote against them and fought against them and made them upset and killed them, and the Inquisition and the Holocaust and the general, the nation of Ishmael, who gives us no rest for 3,300 years, which means the Arabs all over the world. So this is going to be time that after the cleanup will take place, then we finally will move into a new world with no evil inclination, no hatred, no wars. Everyone would live in peace. The Gentiles would come around Israel to learn the beauty and the truth of God. And therefore, we're having now signs that in different parts of the world, people reported they hear a very big siren, and some of them even recorded it. That video that you're speaking about in my Facebook page, it's a collection of reports from different people from different parts of the world that actually recorded it and filmed the area. And obviously you can see that it's very legit. There's no way to fake such a scan because it's a very loud voice all over the area. And many people reported that they hear this sound. And then it's in different parts of the world. So it could be, of course, we don't know for sure, but it could be that God is sending a wake-up call that it's about to come. It's maybe like kind of a rehearsal before the show begins. That's my personal opinion, but like I say, there's no way to know 100%, but it's definitely something that we don't have in a history any record of something like this ever took place before. It's very recent. And plus, we see what's happening now in the world when the nation of Ishmael is doing everything they can to destroy us, and they're not letting go. And they put all their money and efforts and they give even their life just to kill as many Jews as they can. And they build tunnels, and they work very hard for that, to destroy the state of Israel. And of course, it's not only about the state of Israel, because they have in their Quran in few places that they believe that their salvation can only come by destroying all Jews. And as long as they do not kill all the Jews, they'll never be saved. And of course, if you listen to my lectures, I already spoke about the false information in the Quran, human errors, many ridiculous human errors who actually prove right away that this book was never written by God, was never given by any holy source. It's a bunch of ridiculous mistakes, one after the other. If you read it, you don't know if to cry or to laugh by reviewing the book, how many human errors in a level of kindergarten, which shows you that the one who wrote the Quran, whoever he was, his knowledge was very, very limited in religion. I mean, he claimed that he's the same God who gave the Torah to the Jews, gave the Quran to Muhammad. And when you review the Quran, you see that in every chapter there are things that are against the Torah, the opposite of what the Torah says, or quoting things from the Torah incorrectly, which obviously proves to us that God never wrote that, because he knows what he wrote in part 1. He would not give another book with misquoting the verses or writing the opposite of what he declared in the first book. So obviously now with this book, with Ishmael, that even 2,000 years before the Quran was made up, even 2,000 years before that, they're after us. It's nothing new. The Quran just made it a lot worse. But right now we see that with the inspiration of this book, they go after us full force, just like the Zohar, the Kabbalah predicted 2,000 years ago, that before the Messiah would arrive, that's what's going to happen. And not only that, but according to the Zohar, they will take control for 9 months. So it will be horrible 9 months for the Jewish nation. This is what we say in the verse, Et Sarai leYaakov u'mimena yivashea. It's a horrible time for the nation of Jacob, which means Israel. But the end of the verse is that they will get saved from that horrible time eventually. That eventually, it's open for interpretation how bad it's going to be. And we know it's going to be a period of 9 months. Also, when the Zohar call it control, we don't know exactly what kind of control. Control physically, that they take over Israel and they occupied everything and the Jews would surrender to them, and who knows what's going to be then, God forbid. Or control means that they put us in such fear. We're afraid to walk on the street. We're afraid to get on a bus. We're afraid to send the children to kindergarten. We're afraid to make weddings. We're afraid to make shows in stadiums. We're afraid that basically we have no life because of them. They basically mentally, they closed the airports for 48 hours. I mean, this is also a control. In my opinion, they're already controlling right now with the terrorism and with the support of Iran and Qatar and some other countries, and with what's happening right now, I think we fell asleep for the last 10 years. We let them grow, we let them dig tunnels, and if those three holy boys will not get murdered, I don't know if it will not be too late for us. I mean, if we really think about it rationally, that tragedy of those three boys that got murdered within 7 minutes after getting kidnapped perhaps saved us. Because if not, if we will wake up in 5 years from now, who knows if their tunnels wouldn't get all the way to the north of Israel, and they have tunnels to every corner of Israel, which means they don't need border check, they don't need to pass with passport, they don't need anything. They can come out in Israel any place they want with massive amounts. So this is basically the answer to your question. We are witnessing a very severe time in the history of the world. We are before massive and huge miracles that are about to take place. And these noises of shofar, among other things that are happening right now, it's a signal. It's a signal from the Creator of the world. Wake up, my children, or make repentance, change your evil way, stop with your sins, work on your modesty, work on keeping my covenant, the Sabbath, be more honest in the business, watch your mouth, watch your eyes, and of course the most important thing, focus on my Torah, improve your faith, improve your confidence. All these things will help you to get the salvation and to be saved personally. Each one of us has his own test. And this is basically what's happening in these days.
Now, a big story this week, obviously, was the flights being halted to Israel for a period of 48 hours. That's been now finished, thank God. But it's interesting that you see the United States and Europe kind of try to put pressure on Israel, perhaps, to set up a ceasefire. Is that part of Mashiach, that Israel will be by itself and be isolated from the rest of the world?
Yeah, well, definitely one of the prophecies is that eventually, after the Christians and the Muslims would fight between them for a period of time, at one point they will wake up and say, why are we killing each other? Our real enemy are the nation of Israel, the Jews. We have to make peace. And they turn all of them combined with no exception, which means, unfortunately, based on the prophecy, even United States, they would all join together and come to occupy Jerusalem and steal it from the Jews. That will be the beginning of Gog and Magog, the final war, which I just described to you on Zechariah 14. If people read the two pages on Zechariah 14, they would see that the entire world would come to attack Israel. The prophet definitely described an atomic war, nuclear war. You cannot kill 4 billion people within minutes if it's not nuclear. And then the prophets described that God comes into the war and take control and begin to take revenge against all these wicked people. And they will try to help each other from drowning, and their hands will dissolve, and their eyes would melt and leak out of their holes. So, I mean, this is definitely describing things that the world never seen before, or maybe just had a taste of it in Hiroshima or Nagasaki or some other little things compared to what's about to happen. And that's basically it. Now, it doesn't mean that all Americans will turn against Jews, because we have here in the United States a very interesting phenomena. We have now on the radio all day, all the speakers, almost with no exception to the best of my knowledge, they're all very pro-Israel. They speak about the need of Israel to destroy the Palestinians completely, to wipe them out, not to leave one of them alive. This is how they talk on the radio here, without fear, without being politically correct. They say there's no such thing civilians. If their leadership bring kids and put them next to the missiles to protect themselves, they are the one who kills them. It's nothing to do with us. We have to defend ourselves. We have to do the right thing, and this is the way they talk. But on the other hand, we have a very, very sad phenomenon that we have all these liberal Jews here in the United States, that they basically speak should speak. It's something very strange. The Christians here and regular Americans, even non-religious Americans, they speak very, very strongly about the need of Israel to defend themselves and go full force and finish the job once for all. But the ones who resisted, the ones who are pro-Palestinians, the ones who cry when the murderers of our children are dying, they are the ones who control the media here. They are the ones who write in newspapers. They are the ones who, most of them own a lot of property and money. They have the power. They are the one who donates money to all kinds of politicians here. And they are the one who make Israel the biggest damage in the world. This is really what's happening right now. As a matter of fact, just an hour ago, they spoke here on the radio, and millions of listeners here in New York. They spoke about what's going on here. The Christians are asking, we are defending Israel, we're supporting Israel full force, we want Israel to win against these Muslim terrorists who all they care about is to kill Jews. And the Jews, instead of supporting us and be even more, pro-Israel than us, they are the one who actually goes against Israel. So this is what we are facing right now. Now, I want to tell you something. It's not strange at all. I mean, it looks strange. It's really, really painful. And it's also in Israel that you have the left, what we call Smolanim, who go and demonstrate against the Israeli soldiers who give their life to defend the land. They are the ones who protect the murderers and the Muslim fanatics, that they can continue with their job to kill Jews. This is very strange the way we look at that. But according to the words of the Torah and the prophets, it's not strange at all. The Torah says clearly, the Talmud, the Zohar, the Kabbalah, that when Mashiach comes, the descendants of the Erev Rav, all these lowlifes, all these people from all the generation, all the garbage of all the generations will be reincarnated in the last generation, and they will have one last chance to make repentance before they will be destroyed permanently. And when the Messiah would come, they would join together to fight against him. And the prophet writes that he will speak words from the Torah, verses that would come out of his mouth, will make all of them get burned alive. There won't be any more a war that he will have to get a machine gun or plane and to go and fight against all the Jewish traders. That's not what's going to happen. It's going to become a 100% spiritual world. He will say things. He would say who is a real Jew and who is not, who is from the descendants of this Erev Rav and who is not, who is a real Kohen, who is a real Levi. Everything would finally be clear. Until it happens, we have to suffer. That's what's happening. We suffer from them very much. They caused us a horrible reputation in the world. They actually ignite the fanatic Muslim in France or in England or in other countries. Plus, we have those Neturei Karta with their beards and hats that take Palestinian flags and go to read Tehillim next to the grave of Yasser Arafat, one of the biggest murderers in history. They stand among him, knowing he killed Jewish children. They take Tehillim and they pray. For what? For the success of the Palestinian murderers, that they can kill more Jews. And when you see Iran saying such a thing, and the rest of the Arabs in the world, and the anti-Semites in the world, that people that look Hasidish, they do these things. And they demonstrate, even on Shabbat, they join them, and they demonstrate against what Israel is doing, trying to defend themselves. They call it torturing the Palestinians. What do you expect from the Gentiles that are not exactly our lovers, those who demonstrate? What do you expect from them? If they join with people with beards and hats and yarmulkes and tzitzit and all kinds of things like that, and they hold Palestinian flag and they scream that Israel is wrong, Israel should give up the land and get killed by them. It's better than to own the land. What do you expect? So you see now that the Gentiles here in America are pro-Israel more than actual Jews here. And that's the sad thing. From all these things that are happening right now, in my opinion, this is really the saddest things that happening to the Jewish nation today.
Okay, coming up next will be part 2 of my interview with Rabbi Yosef Mizrachi of DivineInformation.com. Stay tuned for that. You're listening to the Messiah Hour on messiahhour.blogspot.co.il. Also simulcasted as Is It Prophecy on IsraelNationalRadio.com. I am looking to do the show once a day for 3 hours, 5 days a week, and we do need sponsors, so please email us at messiahhour@gmail.com. The show is for the fans. Coming up, part 2 of my interview with Rabbi Yosef Mizrachi. We're back here on the Messiah Hour, again, messiahhour.blogspot.co.il. Also simulcasted as Is It Prophecy on Israel National Radio. Right now we're doing the show for 1 hour a week. The goal is to do it once a day for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. We do need sponsors. So email us at messiahhour@gmail.com. Coming up again is part 2 of my interview with Rabbi Yosef Mizrachi. Now, you're talking about reincarnation. You have a lot of videos on that. I love the subject, and I love your talks about it. You were talking about the Erev Ra being reincarnated. I also understand before Mashiach comes that all the enemies, all the dictators get reincarnated. Some say that Haman was Ahmadinejad and that Saddam Hussein himself said he was Nebuchadnezzar, etc. Is that going to play a role with Iran and a nuclear weapon, that you have an enemy of the Jewish people in a previous life, now in this life? And is there anything that we can do to stop it outside of Teshuvah, or is that the best thing we can do?
Well, we know that in 1947, the United States had a trial. It's the Nuremberg trial. They got 11 Nazis, and they tried them here. One of them committed suicide before they executed him, and they then hung the other 10 in a jail here in the United States. And if we know, based on the Megillah, the story of Purim in the Megillat Esther, we see that there are 3 letters there they are smaller than all the rest of the letters. And that gives us Taf Shin Zayin, which came to the year 1947. And it's very interesting because the story of the 10 sons of Haman actually repeated in history exactly the same again about 60 years ago. And this is very interesting because if you read the Megillah, Esther said to the king, she said, if the king would agree, let the Jews take revenge against their enemies again tomorrow. Tomorrow in the Holy Language can be literally tomorrow, or it can mean any time in the future. So therefore, we believe that this story of the 10 sons of Haman repeated exactly again, because if you know the daughter of Haman, when she saw that Haman is walking Mordechai on a horse, she didn't know that it's her father that is walking and Mordechai is sitting on a horse. She looked from upstairs. She thought, according to the plan, Mordechai is walking the horse and her father Haman sitting on a horse, and everyone cheered for him. But in the last minute, King Ahasuerus changed the rule here, and she spilled all the bathroom. There's no bathrooms in those days, so they collected all the waste in barrels. She actually reserved all the waste to throw it on the face of Mordechai. And when she spilled it from her balcony, and she thought she's doing it on the face of Mordechai, when he picked up his head, she saw it's her father. So she jumped from the window and committed suicide. And that story repeated again when 11 Nazis, like the 10 sons of Haman and the daughter committed suicide. She came back in the body of a man, and that was Goering. He had a pill. Somehow he smuggled it into the jail. He swallowed it and killed himself, and the rest of the 10 were executed. But the interesting thing is that one of the 10 Nazis, before they killed him, he screamed Purim for their Jews. First of all, how many Germans does even know the word Purim, that it's a Jewish holiday? It's not one of the famous ones among the Gentiles. It's not like you say Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or Passover. Every Gentile knows about it. But when you say Purim, maybe 1 out of 1,000 would know what you're talking about. So first of all, these Nazis screamed Purim to the Jews. And then they started to investigate, and they came down to this Taf Shin Zayin. The story repeated again. So that's very, very, logical option here that maybe some of these enemies of the past returning back in reincarnation and continuing from where they stopped before they died. We don't know. We cannot prove it scientifically. The only way to prove it scientifically is to basically hypnotize these people, what we call regression. This is what the parapsychologists do, and they can bring a person into his previous life when he speaks in a foreign language, even a language that he himself doesn't understand right now. And later they show him a video of himself speaking in a different language, and they bring an interpreter to explain what he's saying. And through that regression, there's a way to find out who you used to be in your previous life. And this is scientifically 100%, but we did not do it, therefore we don't know. We don't know if really Saddam is Nebuchadnezzar, even though if he say that, and we know he say that, but we don't know for sure if he's the same actual one. It could be that only a part of Nebuchadnezzar's soul came back in this person called Saddam Hussein. We don't really know. It could be Hitler was Haman. We don't really know. It's very logical to believe so. I myself always like to talk about things that can be proven 100%. When there is a chance, maybe yes, maybe not, I usually don't like to put too much weight on it on my lectures. I don't want to open debates for no reason. We have plenty of evidence and plenty of scientific proof that the Torah is real and the prophets are 100% real and everything is 100% can be proven. Why taking something that is open to interpretation? I believe we should focus on the things that nobody can argue with. One of those things is proving that the Quran wasn't the book of God. We see right away a mistake. Also, the debate that I had with a Christian professor a few years ago, which became very popular on the internet, I showed to him, and he himself said in the end, you put me in a hole, and I don't know how I'm going to get out of there. And I said to him, I proved to you, your religion did not come from God. And this was the only religion God ever gave, is the Torah. That's it. And then there were some Jewish prophets after that, and few Gentile prophets. And but they all stopped giving their prophecy just after the destruction of the Second Temple. There's no more prophets. Muhammad wasn't a prophet. Any other Jewish faker who claimed he's a prophet after the destruction of the Second Temple was definitely also not a prophet. The prophet stopped in the time of the Knesset Agdolah, which means 120 chief rabbis, 3 of them were prophets. This was in a time about 2,100 years ago. After that, the temple was destroyed, and since then, we don't have any more prophets.
We're in this horrible war right now, obviously, and the sad thing about being in Israel, there's about a war every 2 years. If you look at it, there's 1 year and a half ago, 2009, 2006. This war seems different for whatever reason. The leadership seems a little bit different. The necessary to finish the job, it seems more there. What are your thoughts? Is this war we're in right now different than some of the wars the past 10, 15 years, what have you?
Oh, definitely see differences. I mean, they're more brave than last time. Last time they stopped after a few days with some pressure. I'm impressed by the Egyptians. The Egyptians know who we're dealing with here. The Egyptians know, even though the Hamas wants to kill Israel, and they're not exactly crazy about Israel, Egypt, because most Egyptians in the survey will tell you they want to see the destruction of Israel just as bad. But they already know, they're clever, they know that the Hamas will not only want to destroy Israel, they would also want to destroy Egypt. They will destroy them as well, and they know they are just as big enemy to them than what they hold Israel of being an enemy to them. They came to this conclusion. They saw what they did with the Muslim brother. They saw that you cannot trust them. No matter how much you help them, they will always stick the knife in your back. You're probably wondering why the Hezbollah did not join the party here. Why the Hezbollah does not shoot. They have tens of thousands of huge missiles, which are much worse than the rockets that are being shot right now. The Hezbollah could have made the war for us 100 times harder with their big missiles. Why the Hezbollah does not shoot at us? The answer is the Hezbollah hate the Hamas just as much as we hate them. How can it be, even though they speak nice things on the politics side of the story, but the Hezbollah support Assad in Syria, and they fight with him, and Hamas support the rebels, those who rebel against Assad and kill the Hezbollah there. So in other words, you have a very interesting battle between those Muslim murderers. You have Assad and the Hezbollah on one side. You have the rebels and the Hamas on the other side. So it's actually Hamas and Hezbollah in Syria over there, on the border between Lebanon and Syria. They are fighting each other. So even their mutual hate to the Jews and to Israel did not convince the Hezbollah to participate in that war. We also see Iran is very quiet. Look at Iran. Iran is very quiet. The only one who mainly helping them right now is Qatar, by giving them $100 million a year and supporting them and continue to help them. The rest of the world, everyone is tired of them. Everybody understands this is the cancer of the world. If you don't clean it now, who knows what's going to be next with them.
Speaking it with Rabbi Yosef Mizrachi here on Is It Prophecy on Israel National Radio. Now, Rabbi, here's an interesting question regarding the halakha, because a lot of my friends are saying, why doesn't Israel go in and bomb Gaza from the air, even if it meant knocking out a hospital with civilians being killed, as opposed to setting soldiers in a dangerous situation? It seems like we're sacrificing our soldiers to protect Palestinian civilians. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Are we doing the right thing because we're sparing civilians, or should we not be giving up Israeli soldiers to do that?
As you know, everything in life has laws that come from the Torah. In every aspect, in every territory, we always have to check what the Torah and the Halakha is teaching us about that specific matter. Just how to fight, and about ethics of war, and what are different kinds of war, a war of mitzvah, a war of reshut, which is permissible war. There are different laws. Over here, there's no doubt, according to all opinions, all poskim, that we are in the middle of milchemet mitzvah. It's an obligation war. Therefore, the rules are much more strict than when there's a permissible war, and therefore, those critics, those people you mentioned, that are saying we do not have the right to jeopardize our children, our brave soldiers, and sending them to risk their life in order to protect Palestinian civilians. This is a very big mistake. It's against the Torah, and the people who are doing it, they are responsible for the death of those soldiers. It's not so simple. When they stand one day in front of Hashem, they will have to answer why they prefer the life of Palestinian enemies of Israel who are praying for our destructions every day, even the ones who are not active on terrorism, even the women, even the children. We are still not a threat. The children most likely become a threat after a few years. Even those who are not active, they're very passive, but they pray for our destruction, they demonstrate, they cry to the cameras all over the world, and build more pressure on Israel. And the question is, why would we prefer to spare their life by killing our soldiers? This is the question. If I was the leader, I would not jeopardize one soldier, even for the life of millions of them. And don't ever forget that they are the one who set the formula that one Israeli soldier is equal to 1,027 Palestinians. So if there are 30-something casualties among Israel, dead, and there are about 600 or 700 of them, the formula here should have been, for every soldier who died, should have been 1,027, because when we released Gilad Shalit from prison, we had to give them 1,027 murderers for him. You understand? So they are the ones who admitting that the life of one Israeli is equal to the life of 1,027 of them. And when you yourself admit that 1,027 of your own nation equal to one Israeli, don't come and cry later on, how come they only have 30-something and we have 700? The point is, it's very clear. I have no intention to be politically correct. or to find favors in the eyes of anyone. I have only one intention, to follow the laws of God. And in a war, when your enemies come to kill you, you have to kill them first. And if you will have to jeopardize yourself even 1% more than the necessary, you are not allowed to do it, regardless what's the price on the other side. Therefore, those are the ones who have to say we have to make this area over there a parking lot. They're 100% right. However, there are clever ways to do it. If they see that you're serious about what you do, they will run away. When they see that you go 1 mile after the other, and you knock down every building, every place, and you make it all flat, and you go to the next one, and the next one, believe me, after you approach 1 or 2% of them, the rest will all run. They'll run to Jordan, they'll run to Egypt, they'll run to Libya, to Sudan, to those countries where they came from in first place. Let's not forget that history teaching us there was never in the history a Palestinian nation. This is the biggest scam in the history. There's no such thing, Palestinian nation. They don't have a flag, they don't have an anthem, they never had an army, they never owned Israel. There was always Arab who came from Saudi Arabia and from Egypt mainly. Most of them, their name is El Masri, because that means they came from Egypt. And the other part came from Saudi Arabia and from other Arab countries, and they came to live in Israel. And all of a sudden, they became a nation. And the name Palestine, it's not something that the Arabs made up. This is the names that the other Gentiles gave. Long time ago, before there was any conflict about between Israelis and Palestinians. And when the Arabs were sitting in Israel for the last 2,000 years as groups or as individuals, without a nation, without anything like that, what did they do in Israel? They couldn't even dry the swamps. It was all desert and swamps, no trees. You can go to the diary of Mark Twain, the famous author, 130 years ago. He came to a visit in Israel, and he wrote in his diary, in his book, he wrote, I went all the way from the south to the north of Israel, and I did not find one tree, even olive trees who can grow on a rock without water, I did not find. What is the anger of God on this land? Which means this is a testimony by a Christian Gentile that was visiting Israel, the Holy Land, and described in his book that all over Israel there's Arabs who live there and they cannot grow one tree over there. So therefore, when the Jewish European immigrants came to Israel in 1880, in the year 1880, they bought the land for very cheap. Why? The Arabs said, who are these fools willing to pay money for swamps with malaria and deadly mosquitoes? And that's why they sold it and they left. Nobody stole from them anything. Nobody occupied anything from them. They were never, ever the owner of the land of Israel. They only lived there and they owned specific properties. When the Jews came, they bought it from them. Only when the Jews turned it into paradise, now their jealousy in their eyes is on our land. Let's not forget that in the Quran, you don't have a word about Jerusalem. It's never been a special place for them. It's never been a holy place for them. It's only now became a tool politically to be used to destroy the Jewish nation. But I want to tell you, if I was a politician, all I would do is come to the United Nations and I would hold the book in my hand and I would say to the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen, I have one question for you. You, the Arab people who sit here in this building, do you believe in the Quran? They would always say, yes, of course. You would probably give your life for the Quran, for the name of Allah, no? They say, of course, yes. Therefore, if you believe in the Quran and you believe in your God and everything, you have to listen to what the Quran says. They would say, yes. I would open up the Quran and read to them more than 10 sources in the Quran that Israel belongs to the nation of Israel, clearly over there, which I show it in some of my lectures on a PowerPoint presentation. And I have Arabs sending me emails from all over the world, and believe it or not, they are in shock. They say, you shocked me, I didn't know that. In my book, it said that God gave the land to you. Here is an example of what's happening here. This is a big scam and what's happening over there. But like I said, look, the Gemara already said this world is Alma de Shikra. Don't expect to search to find the truth here. The truth will be found when the Messiah would come, and the world would be clean from all the liars and the deceivers and all the false agendas and and all these things that we see over here. We just have to be patient and wait for that day.
And certainly, or hopefully, the day will become very, very soon. Rabbi, this was a huge honor. Before we let you go, I want all the listeners to know where they can find more of your lectures, more of your talks, because it's just fantastic. So please give us that information.
Yes, I have my website that, with Hashem's help, became one of the most popular websites in the world in general. It's, thank God, is rated very, very high. And it's called divineinformation.com. There's about 2,000 lectures there in English, in Hebrew, some translated to Russian and Spanish. And also I have 4 different Facebook pages in Hebrew, in English, in Russian, and now we just opened recently in Spanish, which I write articles and post short videos of myself daily, hourly, I should say, and also interesting pieces of news and ideology and recommendations and explanation about the parasha and laws and all kinds of things that benefits the many, many thousands of people who are on my pages. So everyone can take advantage. Everything is free of charge. I also have an app that people can get on their iPhones and Android and go into my website and listen to every lecture we post. And this is it, basically. I write some for the newspapers and speak on some radio station on J-Root Radio every Tuesday. It's a very famous show there. And I actually used to speak weekly on your radio station, which I admire very much. So, but Baruch Hashem, it's very easy. If they forget the information, all they have to do is just Google my name. They put Rabbi Mizrachi. I come the first one on the list, and they can find all the sources where I speak and where my lectures are posted.
Fantastic. And everyone should check it out. It's great, great stuff. This was a huge honor. We know you're very, very busy, and we appreciate the time here on Is It Prophecy and Israel National Radio. Only the best, and we look forward to seeing you in person in Israel, B'ezras Hashem, soon.
Amen, amen. Thank you very much for everyone, for the listeners, and for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Be well.
Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.
All right, that's the end of our program. Special thanks to our guest, Rabbi Yosef Mizrachi, who was here with us for the entire hour. Great, great information. This show will be podcasted on messiahhour.blogspot.co.il. You can check out this week's episode as well as other week's episodes as well. Once again, I am trying to do a show once a day for 3 hours, 5 days a week. We are looking for sponsors to make that happen. You can email us at messiahhour@gmail.com. Thanks to everyone for listening today. We certainly appreciate it, and we look forward to the Mashiach coming, and, of course, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, and God bless.